Moving on to our main news this evening, and a warning, this next segment will contain distressing content. Today I saw probably one of the worst videos I've ever seen of a left-wing sneering liberal apparently pretending not to know about the rape and murder of British women at the hands of illegal migrants.
Just know that a load of women and young girls are walking around, even in the day, with alarms. They've taken self-defence classes and they are just genuinely worried.
Why?
Because there's been quite a few rumours that a few of the migrants have already escaped, so and they're heading towards Uckfield.
There are rumours. I mean, I'm not aware that there's anything to escape from. They have free passage in and out of the camp, don't they? They're not kept captive there. I mean, that was the case.
No, so they're not kept captive, but obviously all of the residents in Crowborough are just so worried about them possibly coming nearer to the town and harming all the women.
Why would that be the case, Lucy?
Well, if you're not familiar, that man there is Channel 5's Matt Allwright. He's an insulated man who lives in a very nice house indeed in Leafy, Oxfordshire, who claims not to know why women and girls would be worried about 500 random young men from foreign countries roaming their streets. Matt is either too thick to understand why women would say they're concerned about that, or he's doing that typical left-wing thing where they pretend not to know what you're talking about. It went on.
I mean, you have men in Crowborough? You have men in Crowborough already. What's different about these men?
I think it's just other people that have said, obviously, that they're dangerous. They're not. I don't know. It's just all the other rumours that have gone around all the other towns. I think it's just scaring all the women and their men for their wives.
I mean, with respect, though, Lucy, those rumours, you can choose to believe them or not. Have there been any recorded incidences of violence or aggression or sexual misconduct or anything like that reported?
What a joke that guy is. Have there been any recorded incidents? Well, let's see, shall we? That Matthew Allwright clip did the rounds today. On the very morning, a small boat migrant was handed a life sentence for the savage murder of a young British mother who worked at his asylum hotel. You've probably heard of the story because it was so horrific. Rhiannon Skye White, who was 27 and a mother to a 3-year-old boy, well, she was followed on her journey home from work by a Sudanese migrant, his name is Deng Majek, who stabbed her 23 times with a screwdriver, including fatal blows to the skull. Majek was described as demonic in court today.
You continued to deny that you were Rhiannon's assailant, showed no empathy for the victim, and provided a limited account of your life in Sudan before your departure.
Now, unfortunately for us, because we don't have capital punishment in this country anymore, Majek will spend a minimum of 29 years behind bars at taxpayer expense. Very good. Rhiannon's little boy, however, is now growing up without a mother, all because third worlders are breaking into our country and people pretend there's absolutely no problem with importing scumbags like Majek. Rhiannon, though, isn't the only example. In Epping last year, Hadush Kibatu sexually assaulted a child and a woman before he was finally convicted and deported last year. Fake Pakistani asylum seeker Sheraz Malik was last year convicted of raping an 18-year-old woman in Sutton in Ashfield in Nottinghamshire. Afghan teenagers Jan Jahanzeb and Isra Nizal were convicted in December, just gone, of raping a 15-year-old girl in a public garden in Leamington Spa. Syrian boat migrant Faraz Al-Samal followed a young woman leaving a nightclub in Cardiff in Wales. He strangled her and sexually assaulted her. I could go on and on and on for hours. So when people ask what the problem is, like Matthew Allwright, I say, open your damn eyes, smell the coffee, because the rape of Britain is well underway. Now, some people watching this, maybe Matthew himself, might say, yeah, but white English people commit crimes too. Yeah, of course they do, and those misfits are our problem. So why would you purposefully import more degenerates when you don't have to, especially when those men come from cultures and countries that have a completely warped perception of women and acceptable standards of behaviour towards them? Matthew is a seasoned journalist, so he surely must know all this stuff anyway. Or is that just too much of a coward to say it out loud? So why does all this matter? How is it connected to America? Well, in the United States, they've been experiencing the same problems too. Uncontrolled mass illegal immigration, importing the worst of humanity to be let free on the streets to kill Americans. Laken Riley, the most infamous case. She was a 22-year-old university student who was murdered during an attempted sexual assault 2 years ago by a 26-year-old Venezuelan national who broke into America in 2022. Jose Ibarra was his name. He was apprehended at the southern border when he broke in, but he was then released into the United States because there was no space in detention centres while his immigration case was pending. He was literally set free to kill, just like some illegal migrants in Britain. At the very least, the British government should be detaining these so-called asylum seekers in secure facilities until the plane is ready to deport them. They shouldn't be allowed to leave, and they shouldn't be allowed to roam the streets of Great Britain, which is exactly what's happening here in the US, the detention. Because the Department of Homeland Security, which is basically America's Home Office, they've just been snapping up industrial warehouses across 8 different states to use as detention and deportation sites for illegals. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars buying these sites now. Let's be clear, America isn't messing around. Too much blood has been shed at the hands of illegal migrants, too many families have had their lives destroyed, and too many Americans have now had enough of it. It's time our pathetic leaders and media back in Britain took note before tragedy inevitably strikes again. Well, with me now is John Rudat, who was slashed across the face in Germany by a Syrian migrant. John, good evening. Thank you for your company. Just first of all, remind us, please, if you will, if you don't mind as well, just remind our viewers and listeners about your own experience in Germany. What happened to you?
Of course. Back in August 24th, 2025, I was on the Dresden tram riding the Line 7 with my friend and my host brother, just visiting my host family as a nice vacation when I witnessed a woman being assaulted and physically harassed by an illegal migrant. I intervened in the situation, subdued the migrant, but while I was handling that case, another one, not even related to the incident, came up by my right and slashed me in the face with a knife.
John, what do you make of when you hear incidents like the one I've just talked about? Rhiannon Skywhite, a young mother, she had a 3-year-old son who is now 6. That poor boy will be growing up without his mum. And there are many, many other examples all across the United States, all across America, the Great Britain as well. What do our political leaders need to be doing to stop this nonsense?
Our political leaders need to be taking accountability for their lack of action. Because what's happened now and what's becoming our responsibility as citizens not only to cover but to try to prevent is a mass epidemic of crime, knife crime, and attacks. I mean, even we've seen since 2014 an 86% rise in knife crime in the UK. That's insane. That's insane. Any logistical thinker, any logistical leader would approach that with great caution and great accountability to fix and turn around that change. But we're not seeing that kind of action nowadays, are we?
Yeah, and John, for me, it seems rather simple. I see no reason why we can't do what they do here in the United States, which is detain illegal migrants. They shouldn't be allowed to roam the streets. And when I explain to Americans here in Washington, D.C. and beyond that, yeah, not only do we not detain them like you do here, you put them in detention centres, we give them hotels, we give them spending money. They get bus passes to go into town. They can buy alcohol and cigarettes and do what they want. They can basically roam the streets to do what the hell they want. We don't know who they are, where they came from, what their intentions are. We don't know anything about them. As an American, does that just sound insane to you? What's your take?
It sounds insane to me. If we're honest, everything that you just described sounds like a horror movie. It sounds like a nightmare. It sounds like something that everybody would agree that's crazy exists. But the fact of the matter is that's the reality for people in the UK. That's the reality for people in the US. And I'm glad the US, like you mentioned, is taking those steps to take that illegal migration and isolate that potential crime. Because we've seen, as we've seen in the UK, as we've seen in the USA, that prevents these things from happening. It keeps them from happening. And if we can prevent that crime, prevent that violence, prevent that death, and take accountability for that, we're going to. And I can only hope, like you just said, the UK does the same and follows suit.
Yeah, and John, just before I let you go, lots of people in the UK are looking across to America and looking at what's going on with illegal migration. Completely stamped out. The southern border's closed. It was like a sieve. It's now a proper border. Nobody's crossing. I went down there to Arizona to see for myself. And of course, ICE is doing its job with some controversy, but 2.5 million illegals left the country last year. Are you happy with the way the administration is handling illegal migration in America?
Of course, and I and so many other Americans are noticing the actual physical change, our cities loosening up, becoming safer, even traffic being reduced. Because when you take accountability for these kind of actions and you build the proper infrastructure like the United States has done, like you mentioned with ICE and with the detention centers, you keep the population safe. You keep the nationals safe from foreign nationals that are looking to do harm and looking to take advantage of their vulnerabilities. And I'm glad the U.S. is doing that.
John, thank you very much. Really appreciate your company. And just before I do let you go, how are you doing these days? Are you well? I mean, you look well. You sound like you're in good nick.
Thank you very much. I'm doing very well. Right now, actually, I'm working in America at a new push called Take America Back Tab. You can find us at jointab.us. It's a citizen servant push to take back America from these foreign national groups that are coming over, organizing and taking over our democratic infrastructure. I'm working hard, really back at it again, and I'm glad. I'm feeling healthy, just like you mentioned, and hopefully I can continue to do this great work here.
Good man. Sounds good, John. I think we need to take a leaf out of your book. Thank you very much, John. John Rudat joining us live on the Late Show Live. Hopefully we'll catch up soon. Thank you, mate. On the issue of illegal migration, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has previously said these small boat crossings are utterly unacceptable and the vile people smugglers behind them are wreaking havoc on our borders. Protecting the UK border is my priority as Home Secretary, and I'll explore all options to restore order to our immigration system. GB News has also approached Matt Allwright's team for comment, but are yet to hear back. gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts on that, including Matt Allwright. My panel are with me now. We've got Angelina McCarthy and Hilary Fordwich. Welcome, ladies. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Very quickly, Hilary, when you look at cases like Rhiannon Sky White, who we just spoke about, does it just blow your mind that these small boat migrants are allowed to just roam the streets of Britain freely?
Oh yes, absolutely. We've talked about this before. I consider it literally an invasion, and I've used the analogy. Could you imagine, even the generation that fought in the Second World War? Could you imagine giving the Nazis free housing and free food? And that's ridiculous. I mean, we had that old veteran who said he just doesn't know that it would be worth fighting today because the country isn't what he fought for. Something else I'd just like to add, when you mentioned about free housing, free food in the UK, importantly, I know somebody who was in a catering business, and the business was hired to then provide food for the prisons. He actually quit because he was so disgusted at all the halal meals that were being provided, and they had all these choices, and he said he just absolutely could not believe how they were catering to all of these different religions and everything in the prisons. He said it was extremely expensive, and he couldn't believe what the company had to do and what they were being funded to do.
Of course, you've used that Nazi comparison before. I don't quite agree with that. I get your point, but I don't quite agree with it. So I mean, you can't compare migrants to Nazis, Angela.
No, not the migrants and Nazis, but it's a typical invasion. Could you imagine people that came illegally giving them free housing and food? Sorry, Angelina.
I just don't think that there's an invasion here, right? Because it's people coming in and it's the Brits welcoming them.
It is an invasion.
So it is, but it is your government that's welcoming them in right now.
Well, they claim they want to stop it, so they're not actively saying, yeah, guys, come in.
They're giving them free housing and free food and free cell phones and free bus passes, and like we said, they can go into the villages and buy alcohol. So I think it's an invasion. They're not wanted by the public.
Look, I'm someone who's always said that the Democrats have done this wrong in America, where they deny that the problem's even there. The problem definitely exists. It's influx of immigrants and overwhelming social welfare programs and costing citizens money.
Correct.
Now, of course, not properly vetting people. Clearly, there's a crime problem in the UK, and it's quite alarming every time I come on this show.
What do you make of that guy? Sorry to interject. That guy who showed you, Matthew Allwright, who's a Channel 5, former BBC man, actually, condescending to a woman, saying, well, what are you worried about? As if she's some stupid, silly little woman. What are you worried about? Why do you care that random migrant men have moved
He does not have to worry about that. He probably doesn't have to worry. Do you know 1 in 4 American women have actually been raped? And I think as a woman is crazy if you think you're safe on basically almost any streets anywhere, let alone all the illegals that if their very first act is to do something illegal, to come into this country illegally, and in the UK the same thing, the likelihood they'll do something else illegal is very high.
What do you make of that guy? You don't know him, but what do you make of that kind of attitude?
Again, I think it's that very dismissive attitude, which you often see on the left here in America, which I completely disagree with, because the left's approach is, hey, let's just dismiss it. If the right is promoting this or promoting a certain agenda, then we have to dismiss it, which is not the case. There's usually when there's smoke, there's fire. There clearly is an issue here. There is an issue going along, and I think it's completely dismissive and a bit arrogant. Yeah,
Matthew Allwright is one of those typically far left, well, he's not far left, left of centre, just oblivious to what's going on with real people. He's not a real person. He's never probably had, he went to private school, he went to university, he's worked in TV for decades, getting paid quite handsomely. He lives in Oxfordshire in a nice house. He's not exposed to the consequences of uncontrolled mass migration. Anyway,